Good afternoon and welcome to the desk, ladies and gentlemen. My name will be F. Joined here by Adonis, and we've got Luminosity versus Randozos for you today. Hopefully, it'll actually be a game.
First set of the day, basically, is what I'm going to call this. Luminosity, so sitting in 4th place right now. You can see them behind Eager, Enemy, and Soar. And right now, LG, their destiny is not in their own hands. But after this match, Enemy will be taking on Eager. LG hoping for these top 3 teams to start dropping some games so they can make a run. And they have a good chance right now to set themselves up in position. They're facing off against the bottom team in the league. It's Randozos. They've only earned 2 wins. However, one of those wins was against LG, unfortunately.
Exactly. LG did have some stumbles earlier on in the season, whereas Randozos, they've actually been able to pick it up, especially after that bye week where we saw the team really solidify and get a couple of members and have a stable roster.
To be fair, when LG lost to Randozos, they ran a pretty specific strategy where it was this very hyper early game aggro, one that actually works. And they were able to upset and kind of get some early game power and then pressure and then kind of just roll through. That was also under the helm of Polar Bear Mike, who has now departed from the team. They've got Leftsyndrome in support now, and while I think he's a good player, he's not the leader that PBM was.
Exactly, and even with the loss of PBM, we have seen Randozos in general get a little bit better, and as I said, I attribute a lot of that to the fact that their roster is relatively stable. However, coming into this week, we will have a substitute.
Yes.
Meerkat is out for the week, so we're going to have a guy named Marvalz. You know a little bit about this guy, don't you?
The trick shotting king. No. If you're into the community, if you watch YouTube at all, this guy releases raw montages all the time. And I talked to a couple of the players on Randozos, and I think they're legitimately ready to first pick Rom because they don't know if he could play anything else. His Rom is actually very good, and honestly, LG could just look to target ban that away.
I mean, it's certainly an option if you have anytime a new player comes on, whether it's a substitute or otherwise. We generally see teams adapt their strategy to sort of focus that player.
Yeah.
Picks and bans is certainly a part of the game. So as far as the bans are concerned, that Rom might not be available. But let's see if Luminosity actually opt to do that. It's LG taking on Randozos. Let's get into picks and bans.
Look at this, BaRRaCCuDDa left untouched in the middle of 4, finds the stun. He's going to be focusing Mast to snipe to the back line. There goes Stealth, and there goes Mast as well. Triple kill coming up from BaRRaCCuDDa, and Luminosity are looking good to close out game 2. Trying to find the last hit. That's the 3rd kill in a row for andinster, and this is Luminosity. You can't count them out at any stage in the game. Looking for a 3rd, but BaRRaCCuDDa might be able to turn this. Detonate, double kill for the BaRRaCCuDDa.
Left side of your screen will be Randozos. They've got 2 wins thus far, looking to eke it out to number 3, whereas Luminosity, they're not aiming for the truck. They're looking for DreamHack and nothing short of it. They'll have 2nd pick and, of course, 2nd ban.
I'm excited to see Marvalz in this match. See, he's not anyone that you know from like the ranked scene. You know him from his YouTube videos, right? And we've seen that play, but it's a little bit different when you're playing games, whether it be rank or casuals, and doing or performing well on your main god. However, bringing it to the SPL stage is a much different story. At LG, they're like, no, we're not going to have a montage of Randozos beating us. We're just going to ban away Marval's ROM. And now, how deep is Marval's god pool really? That's
really the question. And here, this is really what's going to separate the gameplay from sort of the spectacle. Marvalz is known for his ROM play. He's put out a number of videos as we've mentioned. But is he an actual player? How much of this is an actual strategy from Randozos? And we're about to find out. Luminosity used their 2nd ban on Giannis, which means the 1st pick for Randozos. We'll head over to their side. Option to the Clowns. What do you think they choose here?
I don't know. They never really seem to have a discernible strategy. You see their picks and bans. They're switching it up all the time. I expect probably a top-tier god coming in here. We could see a dominant mid laner. We've seen Scylla start to rise. Sobek has actually been started to be first picked by a couple players here. I don't know if that's really in Leftsyndrome's god pool.
Yeah.
There's numerous options, and Randozos don't ever seem to have this style they go for.
You mentioned Leftsyndrome. I was almost expecting the Athena pick. We've seen
I thought in my head as well, but I was like, I don't really think Athena's worth first pick.
The Raijin, though, certainly will be. Randozos' mid laner, Aduro, will be playing on the Raijin, and there's the follow-up pick from Luminosity. Again, LG doing their homework.
I like this more than Athena being picked up early for LG and more about taking away from Leftsyndrome.
Exactly.
He's new to the league. He's only been playing a couple weeks, and this is the god we've seen him really shine on. Kuang going to be locked in as well, which kind of means that Randozos aren't going to want to pick that Khepri. Kuang, a beautiful counter to it, and even though Khepri is a top-tier support, it locks down their options now.
Now, here's my question for you. Is this Kuang in the jungle?
Yes.
Yes, without a doubt.
It's not going to Scary D.
It's Andy's?
Scary D is too much of a... he needs to be tanky. This guy is just like face roll, hold W, run into the enemy team. Every once in a while, he'll play Finran, so he has some options to jump out. But this guy's a frontliner. That's going to andinster.
Hunt Batz and Soul. Batz going to try and dictate the pace of the individual team fights, whereas Soul, she's going to try and find that poke from afar. Soul, of course, with Raijin already being selected, will wind up in the hands of the Hunter. So this is what Marvalz is going to be playing today.
That's going to be interesting here. We've seen Raijin come into a top pick as of late with his recent buffs, and that's going to be matched up by TheBoosh's Zeus. This is a god that he has been pretty dominant on so far, and Luminosity, very good when it comes to teamwork. They're going to be able to protect him. I mean, I'm going to go back way to even Season 1 SWC when Cloud9 were the world champions, where this core of LG won it all. And I was talking to BaRRaCCuDDa, and his style with stealth is actually, he peels for his mid laner a lot. That's why the team really likes to pick up Anhur. The pillar is super useful, and you will see BaRRaCCuDDa look to protect TheBoosh as team fights go on. That gives Scary D, JeffHindla, and andinster kind of those options to go aggressive.
And same thing with the jungle, Kuang. Kuang doesn't exactly have a ton of peel, so it allows knowing that the peel's going to come.
He's got a knockup on his ult.
Yeah, sure. All right. Bans are out. No Sobek, no Guan Yu, says LG. And Randozos on the other side, they're going to deny some hunters. Ho Yi and the new hunter, Jingwei, taken off the board.
Heading into the second phase of the draft here, Luminosity, I would expect them to be grabbing a hunter here. I think putting Scary D in a position where they're going to have the knowledge of having that Kuang and then a solo laner that they're going to be able to make sure can put the pressure out. Like I said, this Anhur, this is to help peel for Zeus, because right now LG don't have a ton of peel. Athena early on can peel with her ultimate across the map, but once team fights break out, you really want that Athena to be aggressive. Grab a hunter that has that option.
So we said before with the advent of Kuang on the side of LG, we likely weren't going to see the Khepri, but still Randozos go in a direction of defensive-oriented support. Geb will be the selection, and there's that tanky Osiris pick. Love this pick because there's not a hard counter to Osiris, really.
I mean, Osiris is just this very dominant lane bully. Even Robin, who's the other very dominant lane bully when you're looking at the Warrior v Warrior matchups, Osiris should beat him. You know, the words of Tolly, I respect anything when it comes to solo lane. We're talking about Tolly. He played that role for 3 years competitively, and he says, Osiris, you really just can't beat him. You can hope to go even, and then he doesn't translate as well to the late game compared to other Warrior solo lanes, such as Bellona.
And Bellona versus the Osiris, Whalrus versus Scary D. This matchup we've seen a handful of times.
This is some new blood.
Yeah, we've seen this one a handful of times. Both of these players coming in sort of the second half of the season. What's your take on this matchup in the solo lane?
Player-wise or god-wise?
Both.
I'm looking at Scary D having a little bit more help from andinster than Whalrus will get from Skeeledon.
Might be the story. Randozos looking to play spoiler here. Will it be the Clowns? Let's take a look. Game number 1.
Polymer Mike looks for the taunt. He's going to find it on BaRRaCCuDDa. Nice Geb shield. BaRRaCCuDDa forced to beat. Makes it over the wall. Oh! Scary D snipes him out.
Really impressive. Scary D blind shot over the wall.
Stand against the wall, and you see Skeeledon bring minions towards the wall. Whalrus
turning up this match. First blood on Didios. Looks like they're falling apart. KDavion got a cataclysm. And the top! He busts her off!
There's going to be that soul, Marvalz, otherwise known as J Marvalz. You know him from his ROM play.
Why do you call him J Marvalz? Is that his... You just made that up. I was like, you said J Marvalz, so I was like, oh, okay. That's like, I don't know, his name's like James or something. And like, you're just calling him by mixing his name. You just made that up completely, is what you're telling me.
Part of me, I'm thinking that I remember it from Twitter, but I could just be making
J Marvalz does sound much better. It sounds like a rap name. I think this dude, he's going to release an album next to his album's going to play over his ROM snipe montage.
Well, hopefully he's nothing like J. Cole, because I'm trying to stay awake and not go to sleep today. Marvalz here on the Soul, though, rocking the Epsilon skin. So, honestly, what do you know anything about Marvalz? Because he's known in the ranked scene a little bit.
I've seen him in the ranked scene. I've seen him, you know, on his YouTube videos. This is a complete unknown quantity, and that's going to be interesting because one of the things that SPL players say is that new players into the competitive matches are always the scariest because you never know what to expect. That's why the Madman Marks and the Bronx Bombers from last year were so effective, because their aggression, people weren't used to it.
We saw that with Oceans.
Yes.
Crit or not on the throwing dagger, nobody was expecting Oceans to land all of those basics in a row and find that kill that we see on the highlight reel. So I understand exactly where you're coming from with that. I wonder how aggressive Marvalz is going to be. He's up against BaRRaCCuDDa, one of the most storied hunters in the history of the game.
Well, it's a little bit hard for him here because he does have the Soul, which is a very lane dominant god, but he's paired with a Geb, so it's going to be low pressure coming out of Randozos. And Luminosity, they've got the Athena, they've got the Anhur. It's a ton of kill potential in lane. BaRRaCCuDDa may be looking to abuse that. However, BaRRaCCuDDa, oh, look at this, already done. So slow on the camps, they are getting zoned out of their first wave. That is really bad for Randozos.
Decent amount of poke on the other side of the map from Randozos, so the left lane doesn't go so hot. Right lane, on the other hand.
This is perfect.
Yeah, you see Randozos push out just a little bit. And look, already with the freeze, Luminosity not letting anything fly.
You see freezes every once in a while, but typically it's like 1 or 2 waves, and maybe after you've gained lane pressure. But right now, I mean, Randozos couldn't even go to lane. They were so scared of that Anhur Athena combo. There's way too much damage coming out, and now it's going to be very hard for them to get back into this. BaRRaCCuDDa already hitting level 3. You can see Randozos, they're barely into level 2. This is so much pressure. This is going to potentially allow LG to rotate for these mid camps as well when they first spawn.
Immediate dash in. No taunt follow-up. No damage coming out of BaRRaCCuDDa. But again, new player on the block, going to be focused here from Luminosity. Usually see the push-up right into the tower very early on to ascertain that dominance that you were talking about. But here, just the right-away freeze. It's just interesting to see how early they've employed this denial of experience to Marvalz.
There's actually an invade going out by Randozos. Skeeledon and Andhur getting pressure early, and Andhur just tanking a little bit of damage from andinster here. He's going to jump away, but here comes TheBoosh. It's Skeeledon jumping forward. Going to get a lot of poke off, but in trouble.
Monkey's in trouble. Hair of HP. He'll find a way out on the south side. And Andhur will follow suit as well, but Luminosity wrapping around the corner could be devastating for Randozos. Not going to be the case. Looks like the Clowns will be safe at the moment.
That was a really surprising invade coming out of Randozos, specifically because of the Zeus. Obviously, the Raijin and the Batz had the lane control. They went to invade, but when you're invading against a Zeus, it's so worrying, especially when you're away from the minions. All that it takes is a single chain lightning to get triple stacks on those players with an extra auto attack, and you saw the burst. Skeeledon almost got first blooded.
And that Zeus, he sits on that razor's edge.
Yes.
You mentioned all the time how Zeus has to sit back on the tower and just get denied farm because of how dangerous he is, or susceptible he is to dying, but he's also dangerous. The wrong step, BaRRaCCuDDa can launch into level 6, level 7, and watch this mid lane snowball, but Scary D is going to get jumped on. Fear no evil, overhand smash will miss. And the jump away from Scary D ensures the life of the solo.
That was just a little bit of a slow reaction time coming out of Skeeledon. He waited on his overhand smash. The damage doesn't connect, and because of that, he was actually out of mana. His jump was down as well. You could see Whalrus there, level 5, but hadn't leveled his ult yet. Yep. He actually just leveled it, so he just didn't press the button fast enough for him. He could have chased that down, got through it on Scary D. That would have been first blood.
Too slow executus. And then Luminosity will keep on pushing down in the left lane. You see BaRRaCCuDDa backing for the first time. He'll go ahead and finish up his golden bow. So there's going to be a very obvious power differential between BaRRaCCuDDa and Soul in that left lane. But over here on the right lane, Whalrus still doing what he can, just always battling.
Looks like neither team wants to try and force anything just yet. So I thought andinster would make sure to keep Scary D kind of safe, but the first gank we see was out of Skeeledon aggressing onto that Soul lane, looking to get a pick off. And while it should have happened, it didn't happen. That's got to be a breath of fresh air for LG. They need to make sure that their solo laner does not get behind, because Whalrus, he's kind of been the unsung hero of Randozos. He comes into this team near the middle of the split, and so far has performed much better than we had expected.
I mean, I've been singing. I don't know about unsung. I've been singing about Whalrus.
But I mean, they still only have 2 wins, so.
Sure, but I mean, it's all about the relative success of the team. They're certainly not winning the games, but they have definitely improved from week 1 and week 2 and week 3 and what week are we in? 4,
9.
week 5, etc.
We're in 9, I think.
Yeah, they have gotten a lot better. So left Harpies will go to Randozos as they find the aggression.
And look at that. You can see BaRRaCCuDDa rotating, not there in time, and that's just that early game pressure that LG has allowed themselves, right? Not only zoning on the first wave, but because of the Geb, that means BaRRaCCuDDa should, in theory, be able to make his way to mid camps, and whether a fight breaks out or not, the LG will have that numbers advantage.
That freeze over there in the left lane, Luminosity has amassed a 500 gold lead, and looking to make it even larger, the aggression onto the Hunter, and it looks like Marvalz will drop the ultimate and find himself safely under his own tower.
That was really smart from Marvalz to drop that ultimate, because he was very close to getting in range of that Kuang execute, and the knock-up just prevented andinster from diving him a little bit harder. That probably would have been enough damage to finish him off. You can see BaRRaCCuDDa had Desert Fury online as well. Great reactions from Marvalz, J Marvalz, whatever his name is. What do we decide?
The Soul.
The Soul, okay.
Whalrus over here still battling against SkeeledOn. This is very standard coming out from the Osiris players. Always want to go ahead and just be ever present.
I just want to fight, man. I mean,
exactly.
Cooldown's so low. Flail's on like, what, a 4-second cooldown, and it's just a ton of poke. LG here looked like they wanted to set something else, but Skeeledon's lurking around the corner. Has Fear No Evil available. Jeff needs to be careful here.
Nobody knows that he's here.
Ooh.
Not going to go for it. Almost looked like a strong opportunity, but Randozos thought about it twice.
Whalrus getting ganked by andinster right now, right-hand side here. But he's just going to back up. He has that passive, reducing a lot of physical damage and taken, and he doesn't want to risk it just yet.
Andy seems to have trouble, or Andy this game seems to have been not able to find these ganks like he has with Thor. You land on, you get the surprise factor. andinster keeps walking into the lane and walking away from him.
That's fine. Kuang, I mean, you look at this composition drafted by Luminosity, right? They have the Zeus, they have the Kuang. They're really looking to take this to late. There's a ton of damage on their team, and even if BaRRaCCuDDa can't kill anyone, what's going to happen is he's for sure going to get a lot of damage off, and that's going to put the players in range for Kuang execute, and he just has to clean up.
No surprise here. The pressure coming out from BaRRaCCuDDa on top of Marvalz. Now, despite the fact that Soul has some of the lane dominance in this matchup, BaRRaCCuDDa is just able to push up. Hey, talk to me about this Anhur Soul matchup. There's the taunt, actually, mid lane. Ultimate out of Leftsyndrome to try and help out his team, but there's Skeeledon coming out from the rear. Damage in the mid lane from Enduro, not going to find a kill target again. So much aggression and 0 deaths already 6 minutes in. No kills.
That was well executed from both teams, and honestly, that meditation saving Skeeledon there. andinster would have 100% dove him into that tower if he had been put into execute range, but that heal is good. And now, LG, they're going to take their advantage because it was a wash, no kills, but they have the pressure right now. They're looking at invading this speed buff. Skeeledon's lurking in the corner. Actually, aggression coming out of JeffHindla, and Leftsyndrome's in a lot of trouble.
He's going to be alive for the moment, and there's the first blood. Andy gets the first kill with the execute. Coming over from the short lane, SkeeledOn shows up, but Andy takes out the jungler. Double kill to start the match off. LG looking strong.
And Enduro can do nothing but watch the speed buff get taken. Whalrus going to manage to get his blue buff, but LG really well executed from them, and that was just Leftsyndrome. You're just a little bit too poked up, and JeffHindla finds the taunt immediately into the Zeus damage from BaRRaCCuDDa, and that just puts Leftsyndrome in the range for that execute, and andinster cleans up exactly how LG need to play this.
Smart play from BaRRaCCuDDa using the ultimate through the wall right there, but that team fight, that was the result of, that was the one-step, two-step, right? That engagement that we saw in the mid lane, fantastic use of the ultimate out of Skeeledon to get everybody off of his team, but Luminosity didn't use the Kuang ult. They still had some tools available, so they just hard invade the speed buff. They're able to just dominate based off of the sheer fact that LG had the ultimates available that Randozos didn't.
They also targeted out exactly who they needed to. Leftsyndrome there on the Geb. His meditation's down. He had no Cataclysm to try and, time to immune the CC. And honestly, when you're invading or aggressing onto a team, you want to target out the Geb in a lot of scenarios, especially early, because the Geb, if they look for someone else, Geb's just going to be able to shield that player, the CC's immune, and they're going to be able to reset. So really well played by LG, targeting out exactly who they need to.
Luminosity now grouping up towards the mid lane. Look at Skeeledon off to the right side. Does have the ultimate available.
This is a good
Jumps
fight.
on in. Fear No Evil comes right out. Andy's the target, but there's a CC immunity. BaRRaCCuDDa goes down regardless. Enduro credit for that, but the jungler's in trouble. Shield from Geb might just not be enough, but the blink is defensive coming out from Luminosity. The Clowns answer back 2 minutes later, but here comes BaRRa. Pin, but no deal. 2-1 still.
Whalrus is rotated over as well, but most of Randozos, they're going to have to back to base here. You can see Skeeledon hanging around, and that was just really great target selection. You saw the original intent was to blow up andinster. However, he still had his purification online. They immediately swapped targets to the Zeus, finish him off, and andinster has no mana to re-engage, even with BaRRaCCuDDa's rotating in.
And that's what's impressive to me the most, Kevin, is how quickly Randozos decided to switch the targets and just apply the pressure to the Zeus. As soon as that Kuang started glowing gold, the other target was called and the other target was focused, and that allows Randozos to put themselves on the board about half a minute before we reach 10 on the clock. Whalrus still battling it out in the solo lane with SkeeledOn.
Oh man, the Warrior v Warrior matchups, they're so fun to watch.
Honestly,
They just punch each other for 10 minutes straight. andinster here, looking to pick off Leftsyndrome. Oh, Leftsyndrome's dead. No way he gets out of this, and a perfect pillar by BaRRaCCuDDa will help secure it. It's going to be enough damage from the boost to finish off that kill, and just abusing Leftsyndrome as he rotates to mid.
One member from Randozos surrounded by 4 members of Luminosity. Really nothing to analyze right there, but the Gold Fury attempt, a little bit different story. A couple of members from Luminosity are going to go ahead and group up, but Marvalz shows up out of the left lane to just push him out.
Oh, I thought BaRRaCCuDDa was in trouble there. You could see Marvalz and Aduro looking to get aggressive. Aduro probably could have all into the Zeus there, but with the beads, it would have been a little bit risky. Lightning Storm still up. Speed buff now going to be invaded by LG. They have the pressure. Skeeledon will secure his speed buff and jump away, but he's going to take a little bit of poke. Whalrus rotating as well. And LG right now, they have about a 2,000 gold lead, but they're pressuring very deep into Randozos jungle. They don't want to give him any edge.
And I love the ward coming out from LG on that speed buff. They want to completely deny the speed buff. Skeeledon has proven to have, I mean, a decent game. He used his ultimate already defensively once and then found the kill in the mid lane. Denying that speed buff will keep the Hun Batz out of everybody's hair and keep them localized, or at least a little bit easier to keep track of.
The biggest problem right now for Randozos is how far behind Skeeledon is compared to andinster. I believe it was andinster the one who secured the first blood?
Yes.
It was on the Leftsyndrome, and so he's got that 500 gold bounty, although it was split. You can see already has the Dynasty Plaid Helm, already has the Shoes of the Magi. It's going to give him 25 early penetration, and Skeeledon still only 1 tier into his Jotuns.
For me, it's a little bit different. Skeeledon will always be able to provide the utility that Fear No Evil brings. Look at the Hunter lane. 2 levels separating these guys and over 1,000 gold. That's just BaRRaCCuDDa asserting his dominance, freezing out the wave early on. And don't forget, Barra rotated to mid early. That's with a rotation.
He did, but nothing's come of it just yet. Now, if BaRRaCCuDDa starts to make an impact, I can believe that, right? Now, he had a really good job of helping pick off the Geb. I think the Geb dies there anyway, but this is what LG need. They're going to pressure out the dual lane. Marvel's still coming back to spawn. Skeeledon is going to smell this Gold Fury out, however.
Yeah, everybody's here in local, so Luminosity just sort of test it. They ring the alarm and see how fast it takes for the cops to come. Randozos certainly in the area, so nobody going to be near the Gold Fury just yet. Leftsyndrome drops a ward, and it's gone as soon as it came. 50 gold in the pocket of Luminosity.
Marvalz is in trouble. Look at this. JeffHindla sneaking underneath him in the dual lane, but decides against it. Marvalz realizes something is happening. You can see the pings on the minimap as well. He knows that he is the target right now in this dual lane.
Look how safe Marvalz is playing, just sitting completely
I mean, he has
on
to
the
at this
tower.
point.
And yeah, I was going to ask the question: is the game dictating that, or
It's
is
the
that
game.
him
It's
versus
100% the
Baron?
game. They had no clear in that mid lane, or at the early game buffs. You saw what happened there, where they were forced to get zoned out of their first wave, and ever since then, I mean, andinster's been the aggressor. Skeeledon has found some nice counter ganks there in the mid lane specifically, but we haven't seen Skeeledon pass above that mid Harpy line in quite some time, whereas andinster's has been always trying to force stuff.
SkeeryD quite a bunch lower than Whalrus himself. Whalrus just continuing to take this fight to the bank, even taking a tower shot or two. Just trying to dish out the damage that he can. The vision dance around the Gold Fury is really interesting right now, Kevin.
Actually, Jeff in a little bit of trouble. Attention going to be turned on to Leftsyndrome, and here comes Skeeledon looking for Jeff. Target switches over to TheBoosh, and not enough damage. Sanctuary's good, and BaRRaCCuDDa's rotation finishes off Skeely.
On the backside, Leftsyndrome trying to deal with the Kuang, can't find it, but the rest of Luminosity collapse on Randozos. Marvel's going to fall, so that transportation from the left lane didn't really
This should be
work
Gold
out.
Fury. 5 members strong. You can see andinster already zoning. He has his ultimate as well, and there's a couple members very low. I mean, if Leftsyndrome tries to get into this, he's just going to die at this point. Really good job by andinster on the zone duty. LG find 2 kills and successfully get the first Gold Fury of the match.
And here comes Andy one more time. Shield's going to stop the aggression, but Andy still foot on the gas. Level 13 on this Kuang doesn't seem like he's stopping any time soon.
That was really good reaction time, specifically from Leftsyndrome, and this is why this Geb pick is so good into the Kuang, because he can get the execute, but as long as the Geb is there and can time that shield onto the player, they're going to completely immune it, and that's very useful. If you can bait out andinster's ult, because he's not really trying to just all in you, he's trying to either poke you, reset, and then go in, or waiting for someone else to get the players low. If you could time that, you're going to neutralize out a lot of the damage from the jungle.
Exactly, and the andinster is going to be looking for those harder to kill targets. Geb and Whalrus are really going to be who Andy's looking for, and if they're able to just neutralize him either way, either with the Geb shield or otherwise, that's going to hurt Andy's game in the long run. But at the moment, certainly looking pretty good. Luminosity up 4K.
We'll see if this round 2 can work. Mistimed, well-timed ult by SkeeryD as well. And just a meditation coming out, and the second failed gank onto SkeeryD, but andinster waiting around the corner, and SkeeryD, I think he's trying to bait himself.
And there's Andy going to dish out some pokes. Skeeledon jumps away, and he can't find it. Blinking away from Whalrus, trying to find the exit. Opts for the right-hand side, looking towards the tower, but there's Bellona. And as soon as Bellona shows her face, And he realizes that's not what he wants.
And he didn't have ult anyway. They're not really going to be able to find a kill there. Just putting out the pressure, picks up his speed buff as BaRRaCCuDDa rotates in to steal all of his gold and experience away. And the Wingblade pickup on the andinster. This is typically an item we see come out from the European meta, more so than North America. But andinster starting to dabble into it, and he's made a return trip trying to find Whalrus. Does have his ult, but Whalrus ults away in response, and it's a washed fight once again.
Yeah, that winged blade, not only is it going to help the slows, Osiris is a slow machine, and that's going to be problematic, but it also provides some of the health. So Andy's going to be a little bit more tanky when trying to make these extremely aggressive
Just
plays.
look at this. I mean, LG, they've really been suffering as of late, and in my opinion, it's on andinster, right? Not that andinster isn't playing good, but he's not playing to the god tier level of andinster of, you know, Season 1 and Season 2, when he was the best player in North America over the long historic reign, you know, uncontested. This split, though, we've seen so many mistakes, and I think it's less about him and more about kind of the gap has closed in the jungle.
I'll agree with that, and it's absolutely why I like the selection of the Kuang for him. This allows andinster to be absolutely in the driver's seat. Thor can do that, but it's contextual, and it depends on the team. andinster here, his job is to kill you. His job is to go in. He's 2-0-1, one of those being first blood. This is exactly what you want on your jungler if he's having some trouble. Put him in a position to really carry a game and hope Andy can carry that over towards the end of the season. And if you're an LG fan, hopefully DreamHack.
So much pressure right now being exerted by Luminosity. You can see left-hand side, 3 members grouped up. That's going to be a tower, and look at this setup. Perfectly timed, executed nice to separate, though. Marvalz going to escape that. First tower still to LG.
16.5 for the first tower, and honestly, that I don't know if that was ever Marvel's tower to begin with. BaRRaCCuDDa was sitting on the lawn the entire time.
He's 3 levels down at this point. He couldn't push out of his tier 1 because of the fear of andinster and JeffHindla roaming, and it's going to be even harder now for him to get back into this match.
Randozos now trying to do what they can. Proxy farming is Whalrus behind the enemy tier 1 over there on the right side. SkeeledOn, well, he's doing the same. So both solo laners doing it.
Ooh, Skeeledon trying to find the push, but he's the only one pushed up, and he has to jump away. A little bit of dissension in the comms there as Randozos are on different pages. Skeeledon goes aggressive, the rest of the team's trying to fall back. And Aduro taking another huge chunk to his life here. LG are probably going to group up here and start sieging this mid-tier 1.
Whalrus in some trouble as Luminosity filters into the jungle. But Luminosity actually might be in some trouble themselves. Good taunt from Jeff, and now 2 members are caught out. Triple stun from left, and there's the overhand smash out of the monkey. Needs another ultimate. Aduro cannot find a home for his shot. Ult is burned, and LG takes mid-tower.
This is why Randozos have 2 wins, right? Oh, actually, Aduro going aggressive. What is he doing? He's going to get taunted out. Sanctuary is good for now. And a 4-man taunt, excuse me, and now SkeeledOn is rotating in, and this is going to be a cleanup from LG. BaRRaCCuDDa finds 2 in the back line, and it's just 1 at a time. The clowns are falling.
Marvel's going to go into that disapparate, and he'll be safe. Tier 2 tower will stand for the moment. Luminosity filtering in onto the left side of the jungle. Gold Fury about to spawn.
I want to go back to what happened there at the speed bump, because Leftsyndrome, he actually rolls out, which tells me he wants to get aggressive at the time. He doesn't have a blink. He's picked it up now, and he's got to make a play. At this point, they can't let LG continuously invade their jungle. You're just going to get whittled down, so the call is made to go aggressive. He finds the 2-man Cataclysm. However, Aduro is sitting around the corner, doesn't ult. He just sits there. And then 2 seconds after the stun fades from Kata, then he ults, and all of LG have already split. They've scrammed. They're like, all right, none of it. And it's just like, you got to time your stuff together. You have to synergize. And we saw that early, like a minute earlier, where Skeeledon goes aggressive in the mid lane, tries to set up a kill by himself, and everyone else is retreating to the tier 1 tower. I don't know who the shot caller is, but right now, at the very least, people aren't following the call.
And the proof right there is just take a look at the player damage. You see 3 players from Luminosity all up in the same area, 8,500 to 10,000, separating 1, 2, and 3 for LG. And that's because all of the targets that they're aggressing on are grouped up, and they're able to provide, you saw the bludgeon damage and the AoE coming out of Kuang. Whereas you look at the Randozos, everything is a lot lower and spread out because they're finding single targets instead of the group up units that LG are able to find.
Gold Fury has respawned. 19 minutes into this match, Luminosity leads 7-1, but I mean, it's just been a show that LG have put on, and honestly, maybe more of a show for Randozos and them not being able to find anything.
LG trying to do a show of their own. Andy comes from around the backside. Aduro's going to have to burn his teleport, but it's going to be toast anyway. Andy comes up on top. 8 kills in total for Luminosity and a whole bunch on the jungler.
Teleport comes in. Oh no, Whalrus is in trouble. He's getting, or excuse me, Whalrus trying to isolate BaRRaCCuDDa in the back. Perfectly timed, though. Lord of the Afterlife, and Whalrus does manage to find a trade-out kill. That was critical, and that was just BaRRaCCuDDa being left alone in the mid lane.
And he's not done. He wants some more, and Jeff's going to give it to him. Taunted to some of the damage. Skeeledon shows up, and that's enough to send Andy packing. Skeeledon wants to stay aggressive, but his team says no. Leftsyndrome sitting underneath the tier 2. Should be fine. Marvalz gets caught out just a little bit, but not enough aggression from LG. The spacing that they've created opens up gold.
This is going to be gold tier. So Skeeledon actually walks to the right there. Might have made a slight mistake. Marvalz is going to be able to close the gap, but he's just getting pinched. And now Skeeledon forces Marvalz away. Anhur here to help zone. And it's going to be a second Gold Fury over the way of Luminosity.
So with 20 minutes on the clock, Luminosity leading by 6 kills, and that second Gold Fury will catapult them into the lead, just shy of 9,000 gold at the moment.
That's
Luminosity certainly looking like a team that's on top.
Because there's not a lot of kills on the board. Speed buff invade is coming out here. Leftsyndrome going to go aggressive again, knock up on Andinster. Andinster does have his purification, and it looks like Skeeledon is trying to force this fight, but he's alone once again. And LG, they just take the speed buff, walk away.
I mean, for me, it's the experience difference here, Kevin. I mean, mid lane is separated by 3 levels, as is the jungler, as is the hunter role. This is the 3 damage dealers, the 3 carries of LG are above the opposition by a whole bunch. I mean, you don't have to know much about Smite. The numbers are higher, and that's not good.
And with that last fight, too, we're starting to see some really key items come out. Pestilence is finished for Skeeledon. He's going to be nearly impossible to kill. Looking at Anhur, he already has tier 2 of BaRRaCCuDDa, so almost going to maximize, or drastically, increase his damage number. The penetration is online for the boost with the Obsidian Shard. Jeff's got a decent build, and now the crit has started for BaRRaCCuDDa. We're only 21 minutes in, and he already has the Blood Shuriken of Doom, as coined by Dry Bear.
Taunts onto the support. Leftsyndrome going to shield himself and walk away, but here's Skeeledon trying to isolate a single member. Ultimate's down, but now he's in trouble himself. Aduro picks up one onto the BaRRaCCuDDa. The turnaround from Luminosity looking like they want to stay aggressive. JeffHindla dashes in, but he's all by himself. BaRRaCCuDDa on the left-hand side can't find the targets, and the jump away from Skeeledon should be strong enough, but they're still sticking in here. Down comes the BaRRaCCuDDa ultimate, and no target is found. Luminosity find a lot of damage, but no final hits.
And that's just because right now this fight's at the edge of the tower. If this was in lane, Luminosity probably come up with a couple return kills. Randozos invested 4 ultimates into killing the BaRRaCCuDDa. It was guaranteed to be successful at that point. And you can see Luminosity knew that with all those ultimates down, they could probably fight. Unfortunately, though, sitting at that edge of the tower gave Randozos a very safe spot. You saw them kiting back in and out, while they couldn't find, any more LG members. At the very least, they stayed alive.
You mentioned safe spot. Look at this ward from Luminosity right here as Aduro walks by it. There aren't many safe spots for Randozos on the map. Luminosity are warding incredibly deep at this point. They're really just looking to deny Randozos any chance of finding experience or gold, and when they do try to find it, Luminosity's looking to isolate these players and jump on them.
You know what I gotta give credit to for Randozos?
Whalrus?
They've lasted longer than 2 minutes.
Stop.
I mean, hey, Envy didn't last. They didn't last longer than 10 between the set. Just throwing that one out there. Right-hand side, split push coming from Randozo. Skeeledon. He will teleport in, however. And Whalrus actually splitting away from Skeeledon. This could be trouble for Whalrus if LG can smell it out, but they don't want to aggress just yet. JeffHindla is going to find himself first contact onto the Osiris, and Whalrus is kind of getting baited.
Yeah, there's 3-on-1 right here. Whalrus thought he caught Jeff out, but it looks like Jeff caught Whalrus out. Ton of damage into the tanky Osiris. Already brings him down to a quarter of HP. Skeeledon still dealing the damage that he can, but Leftsyndrome coming around from the side. Doesn't want to get picked off himself, so he's got to play safe. Taunt, there it is, onto the Geb. He's dished into the damage, and he's dished into the kitchen. Ultimate's going to come out from the Geb. It's not enough. There's the final hit from Skeeledon. Leftsyndrome going to go down for the count. Skeeledon going to jump away. He'll suffer the same fate. There's the bludgeon, not enough. And actually the monkey will escape off the back end, but Luminosity very deep behind a tier 2, trying to find everyone that they can.
This is LG really trying to style, diving past 2 towers. They will find Marvalz here out in the jungle, and now Luminosity, they're doing what they need to. They're grouping up, and they're looking for the towers. That Disapparate is not going to last long enough here. I expect Marvalz to get picked off, even though he's got the knock-up damage. Oh, no, actually, Marvalz makes it out. So Anhur not looking to chase. Tier 2 falls for LG, though, in the middle lane, and now I think the team's going to start grouping up and really start knocking down these objectives.
Strong ultimate from the Soul to escape Andinster's out. Kuang right here. Whalrus, again, surrounded by 3. Taunt from Jeff, going to be strong. And now battling, there's the ultimate from Zeus. That's a whole lot of damage. Aduro's going to stay out of it. and Luminosity do what they can to push Randozos out of their hair. The tier 1 tower is going to be aggressed on now by LG.
BaRRaCCuDDa burns his Sanctuary and Purification. Now, oh, actually, andinster going very aggressive in the back line, trying to find a Duro. It's not enough damage. The reach damage just short, and a great shield by Leftsyndrome. It's going to keep Aduro alive, but at the very least, their Raijin is going to have to head back to base. It's scary. He doesn't even let Aduro back. I mean, that was a little bit of a lazy back, but still, that's a demoralizing play if you're the Clowns.
That's a little bit rough right now. Luminosity up by over 10,000 gold. You hear the pings coming out. Luminosity trying to get their own Okie-doke kill on a Scary D. There's the slow onto the Bellona. Follow-up damage, but again, the solo laner jumps out of Skeeledon's ultimate. Boy, that's gotta hurt.
The team now, I thought they were going to start Fire Giant, but that's way too risky. They just counter ward here and are going to go back to farming. They're losing all their safe spaces. Only 2 tier 2 towers left alive for Randozos here. Luminosity, they need to start making their moves, though. The later this game goes, the more likely, or the more, opportunities Randozos is going to have to climb themselves back into this game. The item builds are starting to be finished for LG. You can see they're working on the Gold Fury. I expect in the next 5 minutes they're going to make a Fire Giant attempt.
Without a doubt, because of course, I mean, this is one of those option selects. Luminosity just goes for the Fire Giant, and if Randozos decide to fight them, Luminosity take the fight and assumably traps them with their advantage. But Leftsyndrome right now just going to get trounced by himself. BaRRaCCuDDa picks up the 11th kill for his team. Marvalz finds escape on the left-hand side.
Geb is so hard to play from behind, especially when you don't have any ward coverage in your own jungle included, right? 26 minutes in, there's no wards online right now for Randozos outside of a single sentry that was just countered, and just andinster, level 20 right now, going so aggressive against Skeeledon, who's 3 levels behind. Finds the execute, does get beads out, and he's just kiting between 2 players, no fear. Tower on the left is going to fall as well. Tower on the right's falling to Scary D, and now the snowball is in full effect.
2 separate fights going on here. Luminosity doing what they can in the jungle to create the space in the lanes. Left lane goes down completely. Right lane goes down completely. All that stands are the Phoenixes right now. 14 kills on the board for Luminosity. 11 kills up against Randozos. This Phoenix looks like it's going to fall, and the Titan will. That's an F6. Just under 27 minutes. Luminosity find their win.
And that was just really well played by LG there. Just across the board, we saw all lanes very dominant. You saw Scary D get ganked a couple times by Skeeledon, but was able to escape and make sure he stayed alive. And then andinster just putting out so much pressure. It wasn't even really the ganks, right? It was just like him just fighting in the jungle.
It was rough, honestly. We saw Whalrus and Skeeledon actually have some positives towards the beginning of that game, but unable to really find that and filter that into the mid and the late game. What was the stopgap?
I mean, Randozos, they just don't have any synergy, right? And it's like, that was the thing. It's like, yeah, their players are good. They can fight, but they couldn't even fight in that game. We saw multiple times Skeeledon go aggressive while the rest of the team is backing off. And then I'm going to point to that speed buff invade that LG did, right? Sure. After the fight in the mid lane, we saw Leftsyndrome doesn't have Blink online. He's only level 12 at that time. Rolls out, hits a Cataclysm onto 2 members, and Aduro sitting around the corner just doesn't press 4. I don't know who's shot calling. I don't know if Leftsyndrome just went in by himself or what happened, but the communication right now for Randozos aren't there. And Luminosity, they know that their last 6 games are so critical, they can't risk dropping a single one, and they're definitely not going to start with the Randozos.
Foot on the